The bright red and white graphics of the CNN studio flashed onto screens across the world. It was a segment focused on global linguistic standards, specifically the use of English in non-native speaking countries. The anchor, a renowned but notoriously sharp New York-based correspondent named Jonathan Reed, introduced the guest with a tight, professional smile. Joining us live from Manila is Dr. Aylana Ramos, a leading linguist and specialist in Asian-Pacific communication trends. Aylana, poised and calm, smiled back. "Thank you for having me, Mr. Reed. It's a pleasure." As soon as she spoke, the subtle difference in her clear, highly articulated English registered. Reed, known for his confrontational style, immediately leaned into the camera with a calculated smirk. "Dr. Ramos, I must ask, your English is impeccable, absolutely flawless. But it's not, well, it's not quite American, is it? There's a certain musicality, a specific rhythm." He paused, letting the implication hang in the air. "Tell me, when we talk about English proficiency, especially in global business, shouldn't the standard always revert to the native speakers, the Americans or the British?" The question was sharp, dismissive, and calculated to provoke. Aylana, however, remained completely unfazed. Her composure was absolute. "Mr. Reed," she began smoothly, "thank you for noticing the rhythm. I take it as a compliment. We are trained to be clear. But to your question, the idea that English must revert to any single native speaker standard is the very prejudice that global communication experts are trying to dismantle. English is not a flag, it is a bridge. And bridges belong to everyone who uses them to cross. If you are suggesting that the clarity and articulation perfected in the Philippines, a country with millions of proficient English speakers, is somehow less valid, then you are not talking about communication, you are talking about ownership." The control room lights flickered, and the producers exchanged nervous glances. This was not the polite academic debate Reed had planned. He chuckled, trying to re-establish dominance. "Ownership is everything in communication, Doctor. We invent it, we define the rules. Surely, you admit that when a major multinational corporation, based here in New York, reviews call center audio, they are looking for the American standard." Aylana countered instantly. "They used to, Mr. Reed. But look at the data today. Major multinational corporations are now seeking the neutral, globally comprehensible English that the Filipino education and business process outsourcing industries have perfected. Why? Because the heavy regional accents of New York or London are often too confusing for the global client base in Germany, Brazil, or Japan. The so-called American standard is actually a liability in global trade. The Filipino standard, by contrast, is meticulously trained for zero ambiguity. When a Filipino speaks English, every consonant and vowel is articulated because our communication model is designed for maximum clarity, not regional charm. The studio audience, listening on monitors, began to murmur. Reed smiled tightened. "So you're suggesting that the American news standard itself should shift to the Filipino model?" he asked, trying to frame the idea as absurd. Aylana met his challenge directly. "The shift is already happening, Mr. Reed. Look at your own network's rising stars, the ones who sound crisp, neutral, and authoritative. The American media desperately needs to solve its crisis of trust, and the Filipino linguistic model offers a vital, unpolarizing sound. When a voice carries no geographic baggage, it sounds unbiased. That is the hidden reason why your own industry is quietly copying our clarity. We speak the language of trust." Reed tried a different angle, but the nuances, Doctor. English is full of nuance. That's what defines a native speaker. Doesn't that clarity you speak of sacrifice the soul of the language? Aylana shook her head. The soul of a language is in its ability to connect. And the Filipino ability to speak English with both precision and malasakit with compassionate concern is a soul that resonates across borders. We respect the rules, but we use the language to build relationships, not to assert dominance. That, Mr. Reed, is the true mastery of English. Feel the pride in the Filipino voice that commands global respect. If you believe in the power of our culture and our people, subscribe now. Let's amplify our story together. The CNN live chat and social media exploded. Comments praised Aylana's calmness and intellect, flooding the screen with Philippine flags and messages of Pinoy pride. Reed, visibly flustered by the real-time feedback, grabbed a piece of paper. Let's talk numbers. The latest UNESCO report still prioritizes fluency benchmarks based on the UK and US models. You can't tell me that a test designed by Oxford doesn't hold more authority than the standard in Manila. Ailana leaned forward, her composure still flawless. I won't deny the legacy of those institutions, Mr. Reed. But legacy is not relevance. The world has moved on. The fact is, English has become a global lingua franca. Who is more authoritative? A group that claims historical ownership, or a group that has mastered its use for global, commercial, and professional clarity? The moment English became the language of trade between Seoul and Dubai, and between Jakarta and Frankfurt, it stopped belonging to London and New York. It belongs to the speakers who use it to prevent error and build trust. We are the architects of the future of global English because our focus is on function over form. Reed, sensing he was losing the argument publicly, attempted to diminish her authority. But critics would argue that the Filipino version is essentially a non-native one, reliant on American colonial instruction. It's an imitation, isn't it? Ailana met his gaze without hesitation. Every language is an imitation and an evolution, Mr. Reed. English itself is an imitation of borrowed languages French, Latin, Germanic roots. Our English evolved under the American structure, yes, but we infused it with our own linguistic rhythm and the cultural imperative of absolute clarity. It is no more an imitation than American English is an imitation of British English. It is a full, legitimate, and superior form for the purposes of global communication. If the voice of your network were purely American regional, you would struggle to maintain your global viewership. Your need for our clarity is an implicit compliment. The studio audience, now fully engaged, applauded loudly. The interview was cut short by the segment's rigid time limit, but the moment had already gone viral. Clips of the exchange were immediately posted across social media with titles like Filipino linguist shuts down CNN anchor and the day CNN learned about global English. The next morning, the impact was undeniable. CNN's public affairs team released a statement acknowledging the importance of diverse linguistic standards. Jonathan Reed himself, looking humbled, addressed the viral moment on his show. I had a challenging but necessary conversation yesterday, he admitted. Dr. Ramos taught me that sometimes, the most effective voice is the one stripped of cultural noise, the one optimized for clarity. I was wrong to confuse history with current global relevance. Dr. Ailana Ramos, now an overnight global sensation, became a symbol of cultural confidence for non-native English speakers worldwide. She proved that the true power in language doesn't come from a regional accent, but from the intellect, clarity, and grace with which one speaks. The Filipino voice had, in a single live television segment, definitively asserted its position as a global gold standard for trustworthy communication, forcing one of the world's largest media networks to publicly acknowledge its own outdated linguistic biases. The incident served as a powerful lesson that fluency and clarity matter more than any arbitrary claim to linguistic ownership.